Hi, friend. Welcome to another episode of In the Unfolding of Becoming. I'm your host, Erica. Last week, we sat down with Amanda and she shared with us her current unfolding, which is one centered around transition from being a people pleaser to being someone who's more aligned with her authentic self. And in the sharing of her story, we discussed the discomfort that arises when you're going through an unfolding. And she gave us some tips on how to regulate our nervous system. And that included leaning on breath work, really being able to identify and name emotions as they surface, as well as co-regulating when needed. Now, what I wasn't expecting was that I was going to have to implement these tools myself very quickly after we aired that episode. You're probably wondering, what happened, Erica? What's the tea? Well, let me tell you. About a week after we aired the episode, or actually about a week after we recorded the episode, I should say, I received an invitation that fell on my lap. And it's an invitation that is inviting me to co-lead a pretty powerful project that would have a lot of positive impact and that aligns with my long-term vision. Sounds great, right? Yeah, it's great. However, when I read further down into this invitation, I realized that the other co-leader, this invitation was being extended by a third party, bringing two collaborators together. The other co-leader would be somebody from my past, somebody who I have removed access into my life about now 8 to 10 months ago, something like that. And this is a dynamic that took a lot of work and energy for me to let go of. I took time to really evaluate whether this dynamic was one that was serving me, that aligned with my values, determining if it was one that still fit with my life in terms of bringing me joy and growth in the right direction. And ultimately, I decided that it was not. And so I severed the ties lovingly and closed that chapter. And even late last year, I was able to see this person and be graceful, have an interaction. Everything went well. I walked out from the space of seeing this person. I felt very good that not only had I made the right decision, but that my healing journey around this particular dynamic had come to a completion. I felt very at peace. I wasn't triggered in any way. No uncomfortable feelings surfaced. I felt great. I felt really good. And I've been living in that space regarding this specific scenario since then. So when I open up this invitation and I read through it and I see that it's something that I generally would jump at, but I'm having to pause because I don't want to, quite frankly, associate myself with this person any longer, I start feeling emotionally dysregulated. I start feeling emotionally dysregulated because my first reaction is to start thinking, why? Why is this happening? Why is the universe, source, God, spirit, whatever you believe in, why is this being presented to me? Is it a test? Is it a form of punishment? What is going on? I thought we had closed this door. We had moved on, and now here it is yet again. And in asking that why and going through this rabbit hole of the why and trying to understand something that, quite frankly, probably didn't need understanding, I became completely dysregulated. So I had to lean into my breath work. identifying and naming the feelings that were surfacing, which were feelings of anxiety, feeling unsafe. And eventually I called a friend, and in that conversation, I was able to find my way back to regulating my nervous system. After accomplishing that, the old me would have immediately then forced myself to make a decision of whether or not I was going to accept this invitation. And let me tell you why I would have done that. Because the old me does not like the discomfort that comes with uncertainty. The old me feels the illusion of control is safer than the not knowing. And in this case, I decided to be different. I decided not to act, not to make a decision. Instead, I decided to surrender to what was occurring, surrender to the fact that I was torn and that I didn't know which direction I wanted to go in, and that was okay. Because listen, sometimes when we're going through the unfolding, we're blooming, and at other times, we are sitting in the soil, waiting for the sun to show us which direction to grow in. And in this case, I'm sitting in the soil, and I did not want to force myself to make a decision in order to avoid feeling the discomfort of uncertainty. I know that to some of you, hearing that I didn't make a decision, and quite frankly, still have not made a decision, might sound like I'm stuck or being indecisive. But I want to offer a reframe to that, because in the unfolding, the wait is actually a power move. I'm not holding off because I'm confused. I'm holding off because I am now refusing to make a decision from a place of activation. If I forced a decision today while my nervous system is still feeling the heat of this past ghost, if you will, I would honestly be deciding based on who I used to be. But by waiting, I'm using discernment. I'm letting the being that I am today take the lead. I'm waiting for a clean yes or a clean no. And what that looks like to me is peace in my body, not just a logical list of pros and cons in my head. We often mistake urgency for importance, but usually the need to know, or in this case, the need to make a decision, is just our nervous system trying to escape the discomfort of the unknown. I'm choosing to stay in that discomfort because I've learned that the straight line to a decision usually bypasses my soul. That's the real truth. I'm moving in a spiral, sure. I'm visiting this crossroads again. But this time I'm bringing the gift of patience. I'm not lost. I'm just learning to listen to my body and listen to my knowing. And right now, everything in me is telling me that I need to surrender. I'm fully surrendering to the cycle I'm in. And I'll be honest, I have the luxury to surrender and to wait because this project will not begin until a couple of months from now. So there is that logistical part of it. But even if I didn't, just a reminder that we own our time and we own our energy. The project can wait for my clarity because surrender is the bridge to integrity. I'd rather be going through a bit of a messy surrendering and honest in my I don't know yet than have a polished and fake yes if I'm not ready for it, and may frankly decide that it's not what's best aligned with my growth. What I am confident in is that by surrendering, my knowing will kick in. My knowing is the physical state of peace that I will feel in coming to the decision that I make. And if I don't feel that peace yet, the most responsible thing I can do for the project and for myself is to stay still. Surrender is a container that holds me until that clarity arrives. And the reality is that the specifics of my circumstance and the logistics of it don't matter. What matter is the feelings that come up, the discomfort, the navigating and meeting those moments, because that is what's relatable. That is the common thread with unfoldings that have a presence of uncertainty in them. This opportunity has the potential to do really good things, both for myself and for those who the project will touch. And it also comes at a price. The old me would have made the decision of yes and dealt with the discomfort of needing to regulate and needing to navigate interacting with this person later. I would have let that taken a toll on me much, much later. But this time around, I'm not jumping to a yes and I'm not jumping into a no. I'm sitting in the surrender, waiting for my knowing to kick in. It will kick in. I will know what the right choice for me in this current chapter in my life is, and I will move forward when the time is right. There is no need to rush and to take control of the unfolding. This gives me time to gather all the information, both externally from logistics of the project, but more importantly, internally, on how my body is responding to the invitation, how I am processing, what my gut is telling me, what my intuition is screaming for me to do. And again, I yet don't know what that is, and that is okay. So I guess this is all to say that if you're going through something similar in your unfolding, or the discomfort is at high peak, I would encourage you to, instead of asking the why is this happening? Why am I here? Perhaps yet again, like I did, where I spent a couple of hours doing that and managed again to get myself into dysregulation. I would encourage you, instead of taking that path, I would invite you to reframe. And instead of asking the why, embrace that it is happening. That this is where you're at and meet it. Meet the uncertainty, meet the discomfort, and know that it is temporary. There's an old saying that got popular for a reason. This too shall pass. The discomfort, the emotion, the dysregulation, it's not permanent. And to make things easier on ourselves, not focusing on the why and instead surrendering to what is and meeting the what is with patience, sitting in the soil, waiting for the sun to tell us which direction to grow in, I have found is a more graceful way and a kinder way for us to meet a particular unfolding. Friend, I want to thank you for joining me today. I look forward to continuing to meet you in your unfolding. Until the next one, take care.